Guys, welcome back. I hope everybody had a great Christmas or holiday, depending on how you celebrate it, and also had an amazing new year. Welcome to 2025, and welcome to my first upload of the year. And if you're new to this channel, my name is Jeff, and this is where I share my personal passions with you guys. Anything from my watch collection, my passion for cars. I have a 2020 Shelby GT500 on the channel, along with some other uploads of my previously owned C8 Corvettes and a few other Mustangs. And I also have a passion for firearms. If you'd like to see any of those things on the channel, feel free to do so. But today, we're going to be talking about, in specific, Omega and Rolex. I like to share my experiences with you guys and hopefully save you guys some money, time, headache, and stop you from making some mistakes that could cost you, well, all those things I just listed. So let's dive into it. The first thing we're going to talk about is my Rolex GMT Master 2 Root Beer. Also, some of the other watches that I have are not here at the moment, but we still will be discussing those. So let's dive into the GMT Master 2 Root Beer. This is going to be for pre-owned and for new. And for those of you that are wondering why I'm wearing gloves, some people have asked that. It's simple. I just don't want to have smudges and fingerprints all over the watch while we're filming. So this is a daily worn watch. It has not been babied whatsoever, as you can tell. If you'd like to see the full story about how I obtained this watch, I'll put a link up here. It's a pretty amazing story how I got this from an AD. Having said that, when you are purchasing a watch new, the first things that I would ask for, and this will depend on your wrist size. So for a baseline, I have a wrist size of roughly 8 inches. So let's put this on the wrist and take a look. And if you're wondering, this is a very special watch to me. Not expensive whatsoever. It's a Casio calculator watch from the 80s. Yep. This is one of my favorite watches in my collection. Look at that. That's so freaking cool. I had one of these when I was like 13 years old. And yes, I'm a lot older. And my wife recently bought me this. So I'm ecstatic. It was a birthday gift. Guys, got to have one in your collection. So again, back to what I was saying, I have roughly an 8-inch wrist. And through the years of owning this watch, in my experience, one of the things that I learned is that over time, you may or may not gain weight. As crazy as that sounds, and as ridiculous as that sounds, it does come into play. So this was sold to me with full links. And at the time, I just didn't even think about it, right? I never thought about if I needed extra links or not. So my recommendation, which will save you some time and money and a lot of headache, is when you buy a watch new, or even pre-owned for that matter, but in this case we're talking about new, I would ask for an extra link immediately. Why would you do that? Especially if you have a small wrist, why would you do that? Number one, again, if you have a small wrist, you might not even worry about it. You're like, all right, it fits. Well, down the road, you don't know. If this is going to be a watch you're going to keep for a very long time, in this case, this is something I'm going to keep and pass down for the rest of my life, the chances are you may gain weight and it may not fit you anymore. That is exactly what happened to me. Now, thankfully, I reached out to my buddy Kiba from Rockwell Jewelers, and he got me a link. It will take some time, most likely depending on what style watch you have, whether it's a two-tone or solid gold or steel. My assumption is that the steel bracelets are, if you're going to ask for, I don't know, more than one link or a link, will probably be a little easier to obtain. And two-tone and gold might be a little harder. It just depends. Now, this is where things come into play as far as a headache. If it doesn't fit you, and you're being told it could take 6 months, 3 months, whatever, you're just not going to be able to wear the watch, right? That's going to really suck. Second thing is, if you had this watch for a while, most likely the prices have gone sky high, especially in gold. Right now, gold is up. So the link, what it's going to cost you now, is going to be more expensive than what it would have cost you in 2018. In this case, that's when this was bought. So that's why I say, if you get a chance, whether you need it or not, get a link now, because the chances are they might be harder to find and more expensive down the road. And some of the ADs you're working with now may or may not be in business down the road, which will make it a little bit harder to get the link. Now, when you're looking at, for instance, Rolex Pepsi, wearing that watch, amazing watch, that's the first thing I did was ask for an extra link, it turned out I needed 2 extra links. The GMT Master 2 Pepsis on the Oyster Steel or in two-tone is going to wear different than when you're wearing a Jubilee. It's not going to be the same as far as link sizes, so that is something to keep in mind. If you're going to service your watch yourself as far as installing your own links, it's really not that difficult to put these links on. We will get into the Omega in a minute because that's a whole different story. So that's what I would do if you're going to purchase new. It shouldn't really be that big of a deal to ask for links. However, if you're asking pre-owned, there is a lot of pre-owned dealers out there that are, I hate to say it, not all of them, because some of them are pretty good, but there is a lot of pre-owned dealers out there that are pretty shady. They're going to purposely hold back links, so A, they can sell them for money. B, they will hold a large amount, and whatever they don't sell, they will melt that gold down, or if it's gold, most likely they're going to melt that down with all the rest of their gold, and they're going to make a lot of money off of it eventually. So it can be a pain, and some pre-owned dealers will not sell you a link unless you've bought a watch through them. They will tell you everything under the sun. No, we don't have it. They're not available. They're hard to get. And half the time, they are absolutely full of it. They're sitting on links for days that they've been taking off people's watches that they've received. Again, this is not all pre-owned dealers. I've worked with a lot of honest pre-owned dealers where I've never had a problem. Well, some pre-owned dealers I never had a problem with throughout the years. And I got to say, my buddy from Rockwell Jewelers, I've never had a problem. Hence, this is how I got the link. So my recommendation is, especially pre-owned, when you buy a watch, ask them if it's full links or not. And if you have a larger wrist size, immediately ask for an extra link. Now, if you have extra links on your watch and you're going to sell your watch, make sure you try to get your value back from that extra link. Some pre-owned dealers will lie to you, flat out. And they'll say, oh, it doesn't really matter. We have a whole bunch sitting here, blah, blah, blah. They're full of it. They may have a lot sitting there, but they're going to turn around and sell your link. They're going to take it off your watch, put it to the side, and they're going to sell it and make some money. So try to negotiate that into your price as far as selling it pre-owned, that you have extra links if you can. Not all dealers are doing this. I've got to have that caveat. Some are. So that is my recommendation as far as the links. Now, if you're buying a Rolex in specific, and it's not going to apply to new, only pre-owned, I would ask them, obviously depending on the year. If it's brand new, you shouldn't have to ask this question, but if it's not, when I say new, I mean within 2 or 3 years. Okay, I would ask the condition and have them send you pictures of the card. Card also means papers for anybody that's new to collecting watches, because back in the day, your watches used to come with physical papers, right? A hard copy paper. And nowadays, your paperwork is done via card. So I would ask them to send you pictures of the full complete set, including the links, the tag, the card, everything, box, and see what the quality is for yourself the best you can. I say that because some of these older Rolexes and some of the older cards, they're going to peel, right? Some of the actual lamination on the card is going to peel. And that could, A, depreciate the value of your watch. B, if you can help it, you want to get a full set in the best condition as possible. It really depends on the previous owner where they stored this watch. So if they stored this watch, their whole or the case itself and the card, and somewhere in their house there's a lot of humidity, that could be causing the delamination of the card. And that is something you should ask for, because getting another card, I honestly don't know how that replacement would be. So you want to get the best for your value for your watch. Now, some of these dealers are saying, hey, you know, having a card, box of papers means nothing. It's all about trust. That has nothing to do with it. Trust should be there no matter what. The card absolutely does mean something. That's the reason why they charge more for a card. When they sell watches and it's not a box and papers, it's less. So when a dealer tells you, hey, it's not a big deal, then ask them to pull up their watches that don't have box of papers and ask them to pull up, you know, their watch that they're selling with box and papers. It's going to be more. So it obviously matters. Not just for that, but it helps authenticate the watch to a certain point. So that is one thing, or a couple things I would check out. Your card, your links, get an extra link if you can. The other thing to keep in mind when you're buying pre-owned is just because the date of the card has a certain year does not mean that's the year of the watch. That is the year the watch was sold, not the year of the watch. Most likely, the watch is going to fall within the same year, but it's very possible it could be a year older or even more. It just depends on when the watch was sold. So keep that in mind. The other thing you want to check out for when you're buying these watches, especially if you're buying pre-owned, is to make sure that, say you're doing a CPO program, certified pre-owned by Rolex, if you can, make sure to find out what the year of the watch is the best you can. Because some of these places, I'm not knocking CPO at all, I'm just giving you an example. Some of these pre-owned dealers are selling the watch and they're purposely not telling you the year. And the question is, how good is the movement inside? That's where the trust comes in, right? So unless you're going to take this case back off and check that movement out, you really don't know if somebody's had this watch, washed their hands, jumped in the water, whatever, with this crown open, and the inside of the watch could have some damage, right? So that is something you really want to check out. If you have a watch that's a 2022 or 2023, you really shouldn't have any problems other than you've really got to trust the fact that somebody didn't leave that crown open. If it's much older, it's more of a chance that somebody either left the crown open or the watch itself just needs a service. Now, you'll have people tell you up and down, yes, we do a full service, so on and so on. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. That's the research you're going to have to do. So that is my recommendation also when you're buying pre-owned. It's a lot to look at, right? Obviously, at this point, if you're buying from them, you should already know that these watches are authentic and that you trust them. Otherwise, I would assume you wouldn't be spending your money with them. But these are some other things you can look into as well that I feel should be part of the watch experience when you're buying these watches, especially in a complete set. Also, do your research as far as what came with the box and papers, what style box, what style card came with the watch, depending on your year. Again, this is going to be pre-owned. Some authorized dealers just slap stuff together. They'll give you an old box, some old miscellaneous paperwork, and slap it in there and say it's a complete set. When they do that and you're doing your research, you'll find out that some of that paperwork is not what came with the watch. And I'm not talking about the card, I'm talking about miscellaneous paperwork. For me, it's a big deal. You should be buying a complete set that came with that watch. Now, boxes are subjective. You don't know if they switched out the box, but the tag will have a number on it that should match the box. So, there's that. But end of the day, you want to find out. As far as boxes, that's another thing I would look at too. You don't want an old beat up box when you're spending that kind of money on a watch. You should have a fresh box. It does not cost these dealers much to get these boxes. A couple $100 might be their cost, and they sell out there for $450 or $500. But when you're talking this kind of money for a watch, the least they can do is A, give you the right box, and B, give you a good condition box. Now, some of these dealers, it might not be their fault, right? What they have is what they have. They might not have extra boxes laying around, and that's what came with the watch. If that's the case, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as they disclose that in their photos or in verbiage with you. So that's just my opinion. So card, make sure it's okay, the best that you possibly can. A good complete set, extra links, highly recommend it. And then obviously finding out if they don't have box of papers, best you can, the year of the watch. If that's something you could possibly do, trusted dealer, right? Benefits of buying new, for most of that, you don't have to worry about. That's one of the benefits, but it's hard. It's very, very difficult. So let's dive into Omega and let's talk a little bit about that, and I'll share my experience as far as what I would recommend. Now, this also follows suit. I'm going back to the Rolex. This also follows suit when you're buying a Jubilee, right? So I've had dealers, try to charge X amount of money. I mean, it was just left and right for prices. Now, I've had ADs that offered me extra links when I bought this. Fortunately, at the time, I didn't need it, and right now it's pretty loose, so I don't think I need an extra link for this. So it's not really going to fall into play as far as the Rolex, right? I have a lot of room in this watch. This was bought new from an AD, and Therefore, I don't see me outgrowing this watch whatsoever. This is my daily wear. This is a 2024, and this is an Omega Speedmaster Sapphire Sandwich. Gorgeous watch. Absolutely love it. This is a perfect daily. There'll be a full review of this later on. Now, what I would share with you as far as purchasing this watch, the one reason, well, there's many reasons, but if you have a pre-owned dealer that you trust to buy one of these, and you have a small wrist, it may not be a problem for you. If you have large wrists like myself, I have an 8-inch wrist, and these are full links that came with this watch, and you'll see right here that it fits on the wrist pretty snug, right? This does have an adjustment on the clasp. If you have small wrists, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal. Having said that, with myself having large wrists, I was trying to fiddle around with the links to decide if I needed an extra link or not. These links on the Speedmaster, especially on this Jubilee, are extremely difficult to work with. If you have amazing eyes and you can see really, really well, it may not be that bad. These screws, and I can't even get it in here to show you, these screws are extremely small and extremely shallow, and it's on both sides. Yeah, it's hard to show. Ask anybody that's worked on these links in specific with the Speedmaster, and I'm sure they'll tell you the same thing. On top of that, these links, or the screws, were extremely tight. I mean, tight to say the least. Very, very difficult to work with. So, unless you have the knowledge to do so, or an AD local to you to work on, or a watchmaker to work on these links near you, I highly recommend you think twice when you buy pre-owned with a large wrist, because it may be a pain in the butt for you to get that resolved. Small wrist may not be that much of a problem. Now, that's one of the benefits of buying this watch pre-owned. Now, we all know that most Omegas sell a little cheaper pre-owned, but what I just told you may be a factor when buying this watch. That's something you got to think about. I did not know that until I bought this watch. And it was a random purchase. It wasn't really planned. But I got it resolved. Full links are back on. I'm never touching these screws again. And I will get somebody else to do so. They are so shallow and so small, it's not even funny. And they were tight. So Omega, I don't know what you're doing with these screws, but maybe a different design in the future. Make it a little easier for everybody. I don't know. That's something I would consider, Omega, if you're listening to me. Having said that, those are my opinions and thoughts on Omega. It's really small as far as what I would look out for these. Obviously, the same applies. You want to make sure that the box and papers are in the best condition as possible. They're a lot harder to mess up as far as the box on the Omega cases or boxes compared to the Rolex ones. The Rolex get a lot dirtier, a lot easier on the outer box. Omegas are, in my opinion, a lot better in design and a lot more sturdier. So it's not as much of a problem. Their cards are usually, from what I've seen, they hold up a lot better than the Rolex cards. So something to think about. Guys, I appreciate it. So just to do a recap on these Rolex or both these watches, check out for your extra links, your box, your paperwork. Older watches, I mean, you're really going to have to trust the buyer as far as the quality of the movement inside. Good thing about these see-through case backs, I mean, you can probably see if it's all messed up right off the bat. So another plus with the Omega. Rolex, you're going to have to take off that case back or really, really trust who you're buying it from. So check all those things out before you buy. Hopefully it'll save you some time, money, and headache. Like, share, subscribe. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys at the next upload.